In 2025, the new tax reform bill was passed as a bill, and then eventually, late 2025, it was signed into law by the president. Now, there were debates about the tax reform bill. Analysts, specialists, every Nigerian wanted to understand why the tax reform bill was being introduced. And then it was also stated once again by the president that come January 1st, 2026, the tax reform bill will become necessary and will be implemented. Now, this has caused uproar, speculations, and of course debates, because people are asking, how is this necessary? Now, the government has said that this is to stabilize the economy and of course to generate revenue. But people are saying that their lives are not stable. There's so many things that are going wrong, and the cost of living generally is not really in a stable condition. So why exactly are we having the tax reform bill at this time? Now, some people are in support of the veracity of stabling the economy, but then they're also not in support of the fact that it's coming at the wrongest time. And let's talk about the fact that they say that this is not supposed to affect low-income earners, but in reality, the minimum wage still does not exempt you from paying tax. So all of these has caused a lot of uproar that we have been trying to settle for the longest time. This is Fafanua Afrika, and today we want to do justice to the tax reform bill conversation. Is this the way to go for Nigerians, especially for the youth who are struggling to find their feet? And is entrepreneurship also taking the hit of this tax reform bill? Today we talk about the challenges that the youth are facing, and we try to prefer solutions to these challenges. Welcome to Fafanua Afrika. This is a show that spotlights the youth, and today we're talking the tax reform bill and of course how that affects the youth. My name is Blessings Mosugu, and I will be your host for this 1 hour insightful conversation. Well, just like many other bills and acts that have come and gone in the past years, this one has also brought about so many speculations, debate. And today, like I said earlier, we're talking about the tax reform bill that was introduced in 2025, passed into law, and has been implemented since January 1st, 2026. Today, I have amazing guests with me, and we will be dissecting this topic, how this especially affects the youth, whether entrepreneurs are spared or it affects everyone in general. And we also have a tax expert who will be telling us what this bill is really about. And of course, your questions will be answered right here on Fafanua Afrika. It's not about to be a monologue, so I'll go straight to my guests now to find out what they think about the tax reform 2026. Let's find out first from the expert what the tax bill is actually about.
Yeah, thank you. So the tax bill, which has come into law effective January 2026, is to reform the taxation system in Nigeria. Yeah, we know before now we have the Personal Income Tax Act, the Company Income Tax Act, the Value Tax Act. So everything has been reformed and consolidated into one act. So which means that a lot of people will now be in this tax bracket, and most people are not really going to be paying taxes. So I call it a friendly tax reform, because a lot of people will be exempted from taxes, like the minimum wage earners, people that earn 70,000 and below, and also entrepreneurs who are just coming into business will be exempted from taxes, especially where the turnover is less than 100 million and the fixed asset is also less than 250 million. And also for even companies that have been in existence before now but are making losses. Prior to this time, they are always subject to minimum tax. But what the law says is that when you did not make profit in any year, that means you record a loss, you are not liable to pay any tax, so you'll be exempted from minimum taxes. So these are many more as some of the advantages that are into this in these tax reforms, where some people will say, no, this is not the right time. And I always tell them that there is never a right time for any new thing. So it is the best time we have this law now, so that majority that are less income earners will not be paying taxes. Some income earners are already feeling the impact of these tax reforms. Most people went home in January, end of January, with more net pay rather than what they were paying before, because of the benefits of this new tax reform, which says that the first 800,000 of your taxable income is not liable to tax. So these and many more are what people will benefit in this new tax reform. Thank you.
Well, now the floor is open. We want to find out from the youth what they think about the tax reform bill. Are you in support of it? Do you think it's not the right time? Who wants to go first?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Bansoni Motginisala, a 500 level law student of Lagos State University. Okay, to begin the conversation, I would say that the Nigerian conversation on tax is not all about revenue. It's all about the question that goes thus: are we taxing to grow the economy, or we are taxing because the economy is not growing? It's a question of a great discourse. So another thing is, we are saying that the new tax reform is more advantage to the disadvantage, right? Let's talk about the multiple taxing system, where you are being taxed by the federal level, the state level, and the local level. What are the problems that would arise? Okay, now we have a particular government whereby we make policies or in taxation, and you don't invite those people that are in the business. You are only to make laws and to make sure that the laws are well implemented. While these laws are like threat to us, we are into the business. There's a contract between the government and the entrepreneurs, in which it must not be broken. The moment you are making laws or policies that are serving as threat to us, then the business will not grow. In fact, the revenue that is one of the so important of tax in Nigeria would be reduced, because we would not be able to further expand our businesses when our incomes are being threatened. Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Yes, the taxation reform that was introduced is not inherently bad, but it's affecting the youth, the SME business. Why is it affecting them? It's clearly stated that this reform has made provisions for SMEs, but in practical reality, this is going to affect us when it comes to the cost of compliance. What is the cost of compliance? These are the expenses these SMEs incur when they are trying to meet up with government regulations, industry standards. So why are we talking about this? SMEs, when they don't meet this cost of compliance, they start to face this fear of penalties. That what if these government authorities, they keep meeting them because they are not able to face the cost of compliance? And not even that, we as youth, we should be able to bridge the gap between leadership and entrepreneurship together. Let's not lean to one side. As entrepreneurs are basically the ones that bring about job creation, they bring about innovation. And as leaders, they are the ones that are going to create these policies. Why are they creating these policies? To be able to empower these businesses. And when they empower these businesses are protected, they are not suffocating. So this is a question of we need to ask our government. At this point, I feel this tax reform that we have is a question of time, of a question of structure, and a question of trust. Currently, what is happening in Nigeria? We have massacre happening in Kwara State, there's insecurity, people are not safe. And now the government comes with a tax reform. Is this what the government is supposed to do at this point? So the people feel unsafe, so they don't trust this tax reform. They feel it's just a way for the government to extort the people. That's what most of these tax compliers, that is what they feel. Thank you.
That's a valid point, and I believe that in as much as it is valid, all of these things are also in different views. So when we talk about tax, we're talking about the fiscal policy and how it can possibly grow the economy. There's the monetary policy side and there's the fiscal policy side. And when we talk about infrastructural development, when we talk about growth of the economy, all of these things strongly lie on the fiscal policy. I personally think that the tax system is fair, the tax reforms are fair, but then the success of the tax reform do not lie inherently in the tax reform itself, but how well it is implemented and seen through to the end. How well is the government able to account for these funds that are actually taxed on people? How well are they transparent about it, and how well can we see the impact in the lives of the people and in the lives of the economy? I believe that as Nigerians, we should comply with what the government is asking us to do. And I also believe that the tax is not a one-way obligation. In as much as they expect the citizens to comply with the rules and standards, I also believe that the government also needs to comply with fulfilling what they need to fulfill. And about SMEs, the tax reform is is one that is progressive, such that if your business has not reached a certain level, you are exempted for the tax. Just like he stated earlier, that if your revenue is not up to 100 million naira, you don't have asset worth 250 million, you are definitely exempt. So I personally think that's a great incentive, right? And if your business has not gotten to that point where you are crossing the 100 million threshold revenue, why then should you not pay tax? Why then should you not be taxed if you truly want the economy to grow, for your business to actually grow in it? So that's it from mine. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Mustafa Mohammed Ishala is my name. A front level student from the Lagos State University Faculty of Education. From my own perspective as a youth advocate and a student servant leader, I would say the moment the thing for now is to balance what as leadership and entrepreneurship, not to make a competitive image between both. The essence is that we as a youth or as a basic entrepreneur, what have we actually done to make any implementation coming from the lawmakers to make a positive impact of whatever we are doing? Looking at that, I think any small business or any youth advocate or anybody should at least participate in every policy as long as it is going to affect the lives of any small entrepreneurs or any youth, as long as Nigeria is concerned. Secondly is looking at the situation on ground. If you are to go with the tax reform or anything, me paying tax, I should have seen the benefit of what I'm paying for, because a tax should also be known as something that is actually going to make a development or a progress to the state or a nation as a whole. So me participating in the tax that has been implemented by the government, I should also be able to see what the government is doing with this tax. And aside from that also, which is also going to make me go back to what is the participation of the youth and also small entrepreneurship. Yet the tax reform that is being implemented now might not affect the SMEs or any small business, but are we being futuristic that okay, there are still going to be any other implementation that might as well affect the small business or any other thing? So this is the right time for us to actually step up and go into what every policy implementation is being done for the progress of this nation and the country as well. Thank you.
I want to buttress on what he said, and I want us to play back. Sometimes last year, the Bank of Industry announced a creator economy funding. And then that creator economy funding had about 1 billion naira. I don't have the right figures in my head. And then there was an announcement that the special advisor to the vice president at that time, which I remember that Smart Money Woman Arisi also called out online that that money was embezzled. Now, I want to bring that back to this question of you are taxing us when our leaders are not accountable for the funding that is made available for incentive for small business owners. How then do we trust that the taxation policy will function and will work to support us? That's one thing. Another thing I want us to also play back in our head is that it's not just about taxes. Already, for every business that is getting money, like the fast-moving consumer goods, which a lot of people thrive in, these people would have already taxed everybody. So believe you me or not, the people that you think are not being taxed are taxed because of indirect tax. For every time that somebody who is making over 100 billion in treasury or having that is coming to pay tax, that money is going to be put into every small sachet of powder milk or every pick milk you buy or any product you buy in the market, either as 5 naira or 10 naira. And that also brings to the question of people who we cannot trust with structure in our country. Can we trust them with our fundings and putting it that? And then I also remember that it was announced that there was a discrepancy in this tax form. This reform that we're talking about, it was announced there was a discrepancy in it. Until today, we don't have any feedback about how this is being addressed. So how are we going to be implementing a tax that we heard that what was stated to be done is not what is finally signed into law?
Yes, in addition to what he said and what she just said, I read on X, a Nigerian man that relocated to Germany, he said he was paying a tax of over 40%. And people were questioning, why is your tax rate 40%? And he said, in Germany, education is free from primary to PhD level. He gets tax, like as he's paying his tax, he's getting 250 euros for his children until they are 18 years of age. He's getting free transportation, like everything is moving. He's getting a lot of things from the government. So we Nigerians, if we now start paying from the 15% tax rate to the 25% tax rate, so what is in it for us? What are we benefiting from this government? What are they giving us in return for getting this tax, for paying this tax? What are we getting in return?
I think at this point, I'm acting as advocate to the government. I speak out to the government in this instance, because I can see that most of the youths are like, the tax reform bill, this is not the right time for the tax reform bill. What are we getting from the government and the MNEs and stuff? Yeah, we need to understand that before now, the taxes we have been paying, the Tax Act has been there, the VAT Act has been there, the company income tax has been there, and I said something earlier that even when companies make loss, they have been subjected to taxes in the past, and we call that minimum tax. In 2019 Finance Act, it was reformed to be on revenue. Before then, it was on their assets. We look at the asset, we look at the gross profit, we look at the revenue, we pick the higher of any of those. And what have we now done now? This reform has actually give rise to you see, when the Mr. President come into power, there is this world that everyone is saying that let the poor breathe. So this tax reform is actually about let the poor breathe, because now the government wants the poor to breathe, and that is why the personal income tax has been reformed to say that, okay, your first 800,000 you are not paying taxes. And even when you are a minimum wage earner, you are earning 70,000, you are not going to pay any tax at all. Then once your income graduates to 71,000, the first 800,000 you will not pay anything. At the end of the day, if you look at the calculation, I expect people to talk based on figures and not just what people are saying on social media. You need to sit down and look at what is the impact of these taxes on income. For instance, somebody that was earning 800,000 before, what was the person paying? Now, what is the person going to pay? So you can argue on that fact. Now, the next fact that, what will government do? Yes, the tax law says that tax is your civil responsibility. It has been there. Even in the olden days, we have something we call Ishakole in Yoruba, which means that even when you go to the market, you come back and give to the obas. The same thing is what we need to do. One of the advantages of taxes is, or one of the factors of taxes is a source of revenue. This is the major source of revenue. Forget every other means. The major source of revenue, the primary source of revenue of government is taxes. And who are we collecting taxes from? From people that are working. If you go abroad, people will pay taxes. They don't complain. So why are we complaining in Nigeria?
Okay, let me come in there.
Please.
Let me just quickly come in there because of time, and we'll continue this. But I can sense two different conversations going on here, and I'm going to highlight the two major things. Now, the first thing is the conversation about trust, if I'm correct. And then there's also the conversation about information, because it feels like maybe many people will be more accepting of this tax reform bill if they understood what the tax reform bill really entails. But let's talk about the issue of trust, because, I mean, somebody highlighted it, or even two persons, about whether or not the government can be trusted with the tax. Because, I mean, we see other countries paying tax, and we see the resulting effect of what they pay. The roads are better, you know, education is good, health is they don't say that they don't have anti-venom in their hospitals. So what is the difference between the structure of Nigeria and the structure applicable abroad, right? The floor is open. But okay, just continue.
Yeah, like the head of the tax reform committee, Dayo said that the first step is to reform the tax system. Then the other step is now to reform the government itself on ways to how to spend the money judiciously. You understand that there is now what we call the Lagos-Calabar coastal road. This is done through taxes.
Okay, let me hear from
All right.
Okay. Just to buttress on what is said, as well as what the person at the back also said, you claim that so many people are exempted from the tax now. That is well agreed. But I also want you to understand that way before now, we've been paying taxes, right? And where is the significant growth? Where is the significant thing to be pointed at to which our taxes are being spent on? I just want us to take a little bit back into when the 2023 administration started and there was a removal of subsidy. The claim then was that the subsidy is usually embezzled and, the money could be well diverted to other areas in the economy to boost the economy. But I mean, it's over 2 years now and there is still no significant growth to how this money has been spent. I mean, we no longer pay, there's no longer subsidy on the petrol, but then how has this money, what's the impact that has been made? There was something about the social welfare stuff that they did and where they said some people should were paid 70,000 monthly and all of that. But if you consider the impact, I don't have the right numbers right now, but then I could remember that I followed it through at some point, and this money were not actually remitted to the people that actually needed this money. So what's that guarantee that if people are exempted? Yes, I admit to that. If you earn the minimum wage is not even being taxed, but what is that guarantee that when we pay these taxes, we would actually see growth in the economy and the funds will be properly accounted for? So that's the question that I seek to raise. Because if you claim that we should be compliant, there should be some sort of proof, there should be some sort of trust that the people can also have in the government that, oh, I'm going to pay this and I'm going to see this. A very good example is what she said about the 40% tax rate being paid in Germany. However, education is free and there are so many social amenities that the citizens can make use of. So if we can see all of those things, or if those things have been done before, and I promise you, nobody here is an anti-growth person. We would definitely be compliant. But then the government has breached our trust so many times. So why do you expect us to trust you? Why should we trust you again this time? So that's the question that I seek to raise.
All right. All right, once again, I am Bansoni Motgimisala. So now, to counter what you said earlier, so no, not the man actually. So let's move on to Section 16 of the 1999 Constitution, which talk about the power of the government to provide for the welfare and stabilize the economic growth of the country as a whole. But can we point at something that is very stable, that the price is stable in Nigeria? Aside from that, let's move on to the canons of taxation, certainty, neutrality, administrative efficiency. Let's look at the efficient way they're using to collect the tax. Now, the laws or the policies that they're making, that we're saying that such as a threat to us, it's encouraging tax evasion rather than tax avoidance. A lot of people are they are evading tax instead of them to avoid tax based on the ash system. Thank you.
If I quickly speak to that, well, with this new tax reform, a lot of people will not be evading tax. Because what it simply means is that even from when you want to open your bank account, you must have a tax ID, which means that at that point, it is confirmed that you are a registered person. So the next thing we'll be speaking to is, how do we use the money, how the government use the money judiciously? And I said before now we have been paying taxes. And yeah, we understand that there's corruption in Nigeria. Like I always tell people that it is what you will do that people at the top are also doing. For instance, as we are gathered here now, if we are given money, maybe money is given to somebody that, share it among everyone, yes, that person will first pocket almost 50% of the money. So yes, there is corruption in the country. But as well, government is they are trying to reform the economy to say that, okay, things are done the right way. This is not going to be done in a day. It's a gradual process because the economy is already spoiled. And they are trying to rebuild the economy and rebuild the trust. And you will confirm that, yes, For just of recent, they declared that, okay, people can now get prepaid meter free. You are no more paying for it. This is done through tax money. So let's just trust the government and to be better.
My name is Oyibamiji Idris Oyekunle, student of Political Science, University of Lagos. I would like to start from where you stopped. I think we need to focus on the fact that one of the most important objectives of this reform is to make sure that majority of our businesses, big or small, make sure that they do not evade these taxes. Now, talking about trust, I want us to judge based on history. Let's think of our president, President Bola Ahmed. When he was the governor of Lagos State, he did this, he made this same move. And was he successful? If you ask me, I would say he was actually successful to an extent. So he's taking the same move again. So what I would say Nigerians should do is to be patient and try as much as possible to gain tax literacy, because the reason why most of us are agitating and saying a lot of things that are not is because we do not really comprehend or understand what this tax reform is all about. So it is left to us.
So my name is Adekle Gideon, a year 2 law student of the Faculty of Law in LAG. So just based on, there are two arguments here, trust and structural accountability. Now, actually, the tax reform or the tax reform bill has made some significant impact at the threshold on not affecting small, medium enterprise and low-income earners. But however, the question here is that can Nigerians eventually trust the implementation of this place? Now, of course, tax generates revenue, but what is revenue where there is no innovation? What is revenue when there is no development? What is revenue whereby people are trying to, there is no a substance, there's no an atmosphere that allows the youth, that allows small, medium enterprise to develop, to grow? What is revenue whereby the economy is crumbling? There is no sense of innovation. What is revenue? Now, of course, there is a progressive development. Yes, we can see progressive, but we have to believe that change is already here. We can't say that, of course, this is progressive, we see change as the future. But why look at the future when we can't see change around? Why should we wait? Why should we keep sojourning like the children of Israel looking for a promised land? Why can't we see the promise? Why can't we see the fulfillment of it here? So that's the question of trust. Now, if we to move to structural accountability, of course, I love, there was a comparison between the German structure of tax and the Nigeria. Why are we having this comparison of tax structure? Because we are seeing failure in administrative accountability. Now, corruption cannot be an excuse. It is never an excuse. It should never be an excuse. It should never be an excuse. You are in trust. There's a social contract that you should generate, you should control, you should lead these people. Corruption should not be a major way. It should not be like this revenue are not being developed. So now the question is now, how do we now allow administrative accountability? How do we allow administrative efficiency in the implementation of this tax? How do we move from this trivial talk to reality based on government efficiency? And this can happen. We have tax education. But now, we're educating the people. Literacy, we're calling for literacy, education of people to understand this tax reform. But look at you, who understands something, how can I understand a tax law when I've not eaten? How can I understand a tax law when things are failing, insecurity? How can I understand it? So things should be put in place for this successful implementation of this tax reform. They should not only be focused on revenue. We want innovation. We want place I can come here, start a business, develop, I can encourage, improve my access. So that's just my take on it.
You said how can you be concerned, or how can you focus on tax reform when you're hungry? It's clear this tax reform does not affect people that do not make money. It does not affect you if you're not able to make up to 800,000 naira.
Okay, so let's hear from him.
Okay, so we saw this tax reform coming over the years, so I don't think it should be strange to anybody. For an economy to grow, we expect that there's a proper tax structure, and which is what the government is trying to build. But then the questions we're supposed to be asking is, what is the government's plan for the citizens over a period of time after collecting this tax? What are you promising us with the tax we pay? How many healthcare, whatever, are we going to have per local government? How many hospitals are we going to have? What will be the growth of our educational system? How do we intend to make accountability of every money that is being collected? What's the, how are they going to put these things to make a better Nigeria? I think that's the questions we should be asking. It doesn't matter what time the tax law is coming. We saw it coming. It's definitely going to come. Like he said, there would never be a right time for us to pay tax. And if the tax doesn't come, there's no way we are going to be having innovations. There's no way we are going to have a better economy. There's no way we are going to have a better educational system.
Okay, let's put a pause on that. The conversation is heating up, and this is Fafanua Afrika. We're talking about the tax reform policy and whether or not it's coming at the right time. I mean, the reasons why these agitations exist is because, let's face it, some months ago or years down the line, they asked us to be patient when the fuel subsidy was taken away, and people were patient and asked some of these questions that we're asking now. And some people would claim or say categorically that they haven't seen any results just yet. So why should they trust the system when it comes to the tax reform policy? This is Fafanua Afrika. We'll go on a short break. The conversation is heating up, and we're interested in knowing what these people think. But that'll be when we come back. Stay with us. Apologize for the network glitch. We are still right here on Fafanua Afrika talking about the tax reform bill. And before we went, there was one of our youth who was trying to say something profound. Let's just go back and hear from her.
So I said, I went to a public secondary school, and I recall that in my school, we sat on the floor. Some of us would sit on the windows. And then when I got, after my first internship and I got my first job officially, and my head of human resource said I was going to be filing taxes, I was super excited because I felt like I was making a contribution into the economy to support, majorly because the education sector was something I loved. But then I went back into the community, and I saw that students still sit on the floor. They still do not have chairs. They still do not have electricity. And then the computer lab was still not computing. So then I now begin to ask question, what is the essence of the money I pay? If somebody like me is asking that question with that little money I make and little money that I do that, what about others? If you take 90 of youths like myself who do that and we are excited to file the taxes, with this reform, and then definitely expecting a job increase, a promotion, and then I will still want to be taxable because I want to grow, and growth is what we are looking out for. Would we still be able to trust that you would use our money or you are mismanaging our funds?
All right, who else wants to go?
Right, government. We have always been saying that the government have the duties to do this, their constitutional duties to do that. When are we going to become inclusive? We, the youth, when are we going to start standing our grounds that we want to be part of the policy making, the policy implementation, because we know what we're feeling, we know what we're going through, and not that the government would come down to our level and start asking from house to house that what are you going through your businesses and all. Now take a look at the blackout in Ekpe. It's over 9 months. Wow. 9 months. Speaking on behalf of Lagos State University students in Ekpe, 9 months straight, there's no electricity. I will be talking about the fact that the first time the power was on, second time they vandalized and all, that what are we the youth doing also? Even with the fact that we're talking about the government, what are our leaders? I don't want to mention the constituencies and all. What are they doing? I mean, they are representing us. What are they doing also aside from what the federal constituency is doing and the government, the state level? What are those people also doing? It's a question that requires answer. Thank you.
Abdulbaki Jibril. I'm a national diploma, 2 students of the Nigerian Institute of Journalism. Okay, I would love to say if the economy is doing well, people will not be afraid to pay tax. The question is, where is this money going to? And we keep borrowing for consumption. Thank you.
Imoni Daniel, a 300 level student of political science, Unilag. So I believe that we have been focusing more on the problem and not giving probable solutions to this tax reform that we're discussing about. I believe that most of us, or some of us, would be happy to pay these taxes and go with these reforms because the government has actually betrayed the trust of its citizens. the current government or past government has betrayed the trust of the citizens. So I believe what the government should do is to try to regain and build public trust. And when this public trust has been regained and has been rebuilt, the citizens would be more obliged to pay this tax. And secondly, the revenue system or the structure for receiving tax should be more transparent and more accountable, not to the government, but to the public. So at least if I'm paying tax as, let's say I'm an entrepreneur or a small, medium-scale enterprise owner, if I'm paying tax, okay, I know that I am receiving less than or equals to 24 hours electricity, I have good road, I have working my condition in my startup is more conducive. So those are the things that we should try to build solutions for and not just focus on the problem, because we have been focused on the problem and we should try to give solutions to these questions that we have been asking.
So, loving to build on what she said here regarding youth inclusivity. Now, there's something we know. Majority of the population of, let's say, Nigeria or Africa as a whole is made up of the youth. The youth are the center of the goods. In fact, the economy rests upon we are the future of the Nigeria we want. And when we give those claims, questioning the efficacy of government, while it is a call that what is going on does not reflect the future we want to build in. Now, if we want to go into youth inclusivity and innovation, there's something we should do. Like I said, the government cannot be coming from us or asking. It is not visible. Let there be youth representative in the committee policy making. Let there be youth representative. Not only even youth representative, they should not be used as just ceremonial. No, they should be in regular visitation. They should be part of the implementation. They should be part of the making of the policy, not just ceremonial. And again, when we come about youth inclusivity, it does not only require that, okay, there's a young lawmaker there. Like, let me give an instance. We have a young lawmaker representing us in this discussion in shaping the economy. And we also have a young entrepreneur, which is also, this tax reform is also helping because it's a small, medium enterprise. Now, if we look at the impact of the young lawmaker represents, he speaks on this, on the voices of the youth, the startup advisory, the hackathon, and every other thing. Now, the impact of the young lawmaker begins to flow to every young entrepreneur every day, and thereby creating a system, creating a structure that allows development of the economy, development of the nation itself. So when we call about youth inclusivity, don't let it be, let there be somebody in the House of Representatives of no, a system whereby youth are recognized, not ceremonial, but they are part of the decision making, they are part of the policy formulation, they are part of the implementation to the pivotal discussion everywhere. So that's just my take on that.
Thank you. So to give more roots to the solutions to making sure that all the problems that we encounter or we face are actually corrected, like the issue that she mentioned of the 9 month, what's it called? So I think we do not realize the kind of power that our voice carries as youth. If we are able to come, we really need to focus and capitalize on the power that we have as youth. Why are we not using, like the issue that she mentioned also, that there were, when she went back to our school after so many years, nothing has been done. What did you do after? You could have just carried your phone, made a video, posted on X or any. These are things you might think it would matter, but then these are things that they are ingredients that would actually make sure that change actually comes. We need to talk more, and a collective voice actually works more. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Esther from Nigeria Institute of Journalism. So my own question, and the question that have been baffling me, is why is it now? Why is it now when youth want to do something by themselves? Why is it now when people think, okay, education is not enough, let me just find something to do myself? Why is it that it is now that the government now find it, now reason out that, okay, let's start collecting tax from this small business? Is it because of the rise of social media? Is it because they are seeing people online advertising their business, people packing orders? They say young people making things work out for themselves. Why is it that is now that the government now wants them to start paying tax?
Good afternoon. Regarding this issue, I can say that the tax reform issue has actually given the platform for we youth to actually take outside the box. Looking at what we have on ground, talking about youth inclusion in policy making, we've actually been talking about the government and everything, but are we asking questions? We've actually been asking questions from the government. What are we getting? What are they doing? But we as the youth, have we actually stepped up and say this is what we want to do? In this aspect, I don't want you to get me wrong. Starting from inclusion and everything is going to be from the grassroots. We can't actually just jump and say, okay, this is what we are going to be doing. What has been our driving spirit in participating in the policy making? Looking at the past, I don't want to go to that, but looking at the participation of the youth, I would say 90% of the Nigerian youth are just seated at home behind their keyboard, just tweeting and everything, without no physical or any realistic participation in everything they are doing. Do we actually want to contribute to everything that is happening? Let's also wake up that, okay, this is not just about me sitting down at home, browsing or tweeting against the government. This is about our physical contribution, our physical appearance in starting from our grassroots. How have we exercised our franchise? How have we actually want to be included in the policy implementation made by the government? Thank you very much.
All right, so the conversation has been revolving around trust, government accountability, youth inclusion, as well as misinformation about the tax reform. And I think that there is a connecting dot among four of these factors, right? And not to counter what you said, I believe that we ourselves as youth, there's still so much work to be done in taking out time to really understand this tax reform, how it impacts our lives, and how we can put effort in trying to educate other people, because the misinformation is such a lot, and I'm very sure that many of us are able to relate to it. During December, we saw the several tweets that were made about, oh, if somebody donates money to you, if somebody gives you money, it will be taxed. And in the reality, it's really not like that, right? Even small business owners would not be taxed until they reach a particular threshold. That's it on the misinformation aspect. And for trust and government accountability, I mean, it's great to hear from every single person and to see how passionate we are about this cause. But I mean, listening to everybody's perspective, I think we should give the government a second chance, right? Yes, you might say how many times, but I mean, I took out time to actually read and, understand and listen to a lot of things from Dayo Olusanya, the president of Fiscal Policy Committee. And I think that if we trust this process and we are patient enough, we would come back to say that these things are was actually worth it, because if we want our country to grow, we must actually pay tax. And what they did now is to make sure that the tax is no longer on the middle income earners, the small income earners, but rather on the high income earners. So they are basically trying to use the income of the high income earners to solve the problem at the grassroots. Now for youth inclusion, I think these are ways we can lend our voice, and let it not stop here. Let's do more. Let's ensure to put in effort in trying to drive change within our immediate society, right? You talked about going back to your secondary school, and the chairs are bad, but I mean, you could try to organize an outreach or something, raise donations, right, to solve those problems. So I believe that immediate change would also really help in trying to make our environments better. The change that we want, the change that we envision, really starts from us. Thank you.
All right, so I guess that the question we're ending with today is, do we have to keep organizing outreach, organizing donations, organizing things, even after paying for a better life, for a better economy? Or do we have to keep paying with our lives for security and the likes, even when we're paying taxes? Well, the conversation continues right after now, but this has been Fafanua Afrika, the show that spotlights the youths, the challenges, the opportunities, and we try to prefer solutions to some of these challenges. My name is Blessings Mosugu. It has been a wonderful episode, but we'll continue now with the conversation. It's heating up, and I don't want to miss out on it. Thanks for watching.